Welcome back to Living Practice, the podcast that discusses the intersections of creativity, spirituality, and curiosity. I'm your host, Ricky Horvatic. Today we will be discussing divine union through creative practice and the consistency it takes to get there. I've been sharing a lot recently about the way showing up every single day, no matter what, has significantly impacted not only the confidence I have in my creativity, but also my ability to step into a flow state and be able to really get into the zone. And I think that it's easy to see that we have to set aside this sacred time for creativity, and it needs to be special, and we should be alone, and we should have candles lit. And while there's probably definitely time for that, I'm going to invite you to instead set up creative stations throughout your house. Have a basket to take outside with you. Have an area on your front porch or your balcony. Have an area in your studio, something in your living room, something near your kitchen, a little something at your dining room table. This sounds very cluttered. It depends on what you're working on. But if you have creative stations so that you can easily dip in and out of your practice when it feels right and when you have the opportunity to, you'll find yourself engaging with creativity more. This isn't to say that we shouldn't ritualize our practice. I am actually a process artist who more often than not can combine magic and art making all in one, and so ritual often has something to do with it. However, being able to get into that headspace and be able to make things and not get caught up in the beginning of it has been aided in this process of constantly dipping in and out of creativity. Creativity is always woven throughout my day. It doesn't matter what it is that I'm doing. I can take my kids outside so they can go bike riding and play with friends and run around, and I'm writing, or I'm drawing, or I'm crocheting, or I'm stitching, or I'm reading, or I'm just sitting there and pondering. Thinking is also part of the creative process. By showing up to our creative practice this way and dipping in and out of it, our creativity starts to take notice. And I like to view it as courting creativity. I want to shout out Hannah Williams, the host of Grace Pilled podcast, as well as the teacher of Grace 101 on their Patreon. This is something that I kind of learned from them, the idea of courting grace, and I highly, highly suggest go listen to Grace 101 on their Patreon. I believe it's up there for free for everyone. I've listened to it multiple times, and it's totally changed my life. It's changed the way I've approached my spirituality, and it has changed the way that I approach my creativity. If you can show your creativity that you are serious about showing up, that you really want to connect with her, that you are in it for the long haul, that you are doing this whole thing with her, she is going to give back to you. And this is where the idea of divine union comes into play. And I know the book Big Magic by Liz Gilbert and The Creative Act by Rick Rubin kind of touch on this, the almost channeling aspect, or a collective creative unconsciousness that we are all able to tap into. It's kind of vague and shapeless and formless, but it's there. And I've realized that I don't fully know what it is that I think creativity is. I don't know if I think creativity is God, or if I think creativity is simply the language God chooses to speak through us. And I'm super curious to continue engaging with her and finding out more. I find myself continuously surprised at the things that I make and the way I express myself. And I think that there's something incredibly spiritual and devotional about the act of showing up every day as you are when you're able to and putting in the work. So I would like to hear what your guys' strategies are right now for engaging regularly with a creative practice. If you feel like you're getting stuck on the beginning steps, or you feel as though you're getting stuck on finding the right conditions to show up, I want to invite you to try to create the imperfect conditions. And one of the ways I do that is by making sure, like I said, the creative stations is a great method. It's something that makes it easy. As a stay-at-home mom, I'm able to engage with creativity no matter where I'm at in my house and no matter what I'm doing. But I also think approaching every act that you make as a creative practice can be helpful, because creativity really is interwoven with every aspect of our lives. And I think that finding ways to be creative that aren't like your end-all be-all. I think I mentioned this in our last episode, the low-stakes creativity. I know I see a lot of crafting videos, and I do some crafts with my kids sometimes, and those are more process-oriented, and it is basically just fun. It's play. And what a better way to show creativity that we are interested in interacting with her and being in a relationship with her than by playing. Okay, I would love to know what you guys think about this and how it is you view your creative practice and how you view creativity as a whole. This is sort of a ramble because I had these thoughts as I was driving to the store, and I wanted to get them recorded before I lost them, because that's in the notes app or in my brain. This has been Living Practice, the podcast that explores creativity, spirituality, and curiosity. I'm your host, Ricky Horvatic. You can find me on Instagram under the handle Starmoth Press. You can find me at starmoth.substack.com. That hosts both my publications on Substack. And I hope that we can connect further and that we can continue to have conversations about creative practice and what it means to be a spiritual being walking on this earth today. All right, y'all. Have a good week. Bye.